What is up, YouTube? It's CS back here with another installment, and here's my episode review for episode 23 of Deadliest. This one is between George Washington and Napoleon. Of course, it's the season premiere. So, folks, first off, I hope you guys did watch that episode. Probably some of the most epic shit I've ever seen. This season's gonna be absolutely bananas with the way they're testing shit now and with the amount of X factors that are taken into consideration. Just when Mac came to the show, like the makeover started with him, and I like it. So tell me what you guys think of how everything's done. It's not just a weapons test anymore. Speaking of weapons, though, let's take a look at what we got. Starting with the first test, it was long range, cannon versus cannon, 8-pound cannon from Napoleon, and then George's 6-pound cannon. Both of them, they were decently accurate from where they're firing. When they're firing the cannonballs, George hit 2 out of 4 times, and he did take out the cannon. And Napoleon hit 3 out of 4 times when he hit the cannon out of giving the edge to Napoleon straight up. And then, of course, they were split on it because of the equal damage that they both dished out. But Napoleon edged it again with his grape shot over George Washington's scatter shot when they threw a bunch of frag in each of their cannons and see who would kill more out of the 15 guys that they laid out for each cannon. Of course, Napoleon, like I said, already took that test. Figured he would. 8-pound cannon. It was a better cannon. It wasn't, cheap shit. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people were picking the 8-pound cannon over the 6-pound cannon. There's no way you can factor in maneuverability. Of course you do, but it can't be a heck of a whole lot. Still, both aren't, heck of a whole lot of. There's not much maneuverability in each cannon, and I think the bigger bang factors in to this test more than maneuverability. So of course you gotta give it to Napoleon, and even with that bigger bang, he was a little bit more accurate as well. So basically, Napoleon got the edge in the long range weapon category with his 8-pound cannon. But let's move on to the mid range weapons. And did he maintain his edge there? He didn't. It actually went to George Washington with his Brown Bess and Pennsylvania long rifle combination over the Charleville musket of Napoleon. Now, Napoleon Charleville musket. Surprisingly, I didn't think it would reload that quicker. It did. And because of that, if you were to give him the edge, that would be, its reason. Because as a rifle, I mean, as a musket, and it's, the people who were shooting it, the marksmanship was not good. They weren't hitting shit up until their third or fourth shots, and they only made 4 kills. Not a good look, although they, were able to reload fast. George Washington's crew reloaded twice as fast, but they were hitting stuff by the time they were firing like their first or second shots. And of course, they were able to hit the general at the back and the horse even to boot. So what can I say? Everyone got hit for Napoleon's side when George Washington was shooting with the Brown Bess and Pennsylvania long rifle combination. Got to give it to them due to their accuracy, and every shot was a kill shot. So got to give it to them. So in mid-range, of course, the edge went to George Washington and his Pennsylvania rifle and Brown Bess combination. But moving on to short range, did he maintain his edge? Yes, he did. He took the edge with his Klishmard. It just showed to be the more, it had options, in my opinion. It's something they failed to mention in the show, I think. And sure, the saber is, a tad more devastating on horse due to the fact that when you slash, you don't exactly have to pull it out, and that swing motion, nice momentum on that slash when you're on the horse. But and you can also stab, so you have options there. But the thing is, you have the more defensive option in the Kalishmard, and that's vital when you are dismounted. And with George Washington's goons firing at Napoleon, most likely would have probably dismounted him, taking out the horse or something like that, and then Napoleon would have had to, resort to melee combat. And if he saw a dude that was equally good, with a Klishmar like George Washington, you might have lost. And giving George Washington the edge with the Klishmar is cool. I gave it to Napoleon myself due to the fact that um, I thought that slashing, trauma and devastation would be a little bit too much. But you know what? Looking at it now, I think I kind of agree with the Klishmar. The edge thrusting weapon really don't matter how you kill someone, just as long as you get it done. Doesn't matter how devastating it is, basically. And thrust, sure, it's not as gory or flashy, but hey, it gets the job done, and that's all George Washington stood for, is just getting it done. Considering he didn't exactly have the flashiest of means to do so. So that about does it for weapons, but in terms of who got the edges where, George Washington, 2 edges to 1. Napoleon got it in the cannons. Of course, he was a master of artillery, no shock, he got the edge there. As for short range weapons, after realizing that the Klishmar is a little bit more well rounded once you are dismounted, no surprise I got the edge. Of course, the Brown Bess and Pennsylvania long rifle. American marksmanship usually never loses on the show. No surprise they got the edge. Why I picked them to get the edge on that shit. But of course, we have a shitload of X factors that were factored into this ones. The ones that are mentioned: logistics, generalship, fatigue, stuff like that. Of course, factored in, and I would assume they factored in more than any other X factors like intimidation or stuff like that. But I'm glad that they're factoring this shit into it now, a little bit more little bit more intuitive now, besides just a weapons test, and taking a look at the shit that they mentioned. I believe George Washington got the edge in generalship and in fatigue. A little bit more endurance on the part of George Washington. He was able to make the British fight a war of attrition, basically. And with his hybrid warfare, I think that's where he basically canned them, because they're fighting a war of attrition, and he was able to be cheap. So, what can I say? George Washington did his thing back in the 1770s. But against Napoleon, he also did this thing, and I believe he should have got the edge in tactics, but they gave it to Napoleon. Um, yeah, I guess Napoleon, you know, why not? Like, it's preference on that one, I guess. What can I say? And then Napoleon also got the edge in logistics because he basically had the shit he wanted. George Washington had to make do with what he had. But yeah, that about does it for all the X factors and shit. Ended up having very slim ass margin of victory for George Washington. He won 50.6% of the time, so that's 2,530 times out of 5,000. Yes, they doing out of 5,000. Cool, but 50.6, that has to be the slimmest shit in Lewis Warrior history. Holy crap, that's ridiculous. So what can I say? George Washington he edged it. I thought he was going to win by a bigger margin, not a huge margin, but a bigger margin. But wow, this has to be the closest matchup ever, and I don't know. We might see shit closer come next matchups, but I doubt it, cause fuck, that was close. I'm still speechless. But yeah, that about does it for my review. I did pick George Washington. He did win. Really happy he won because I am American. George Washington. Um, when you think of it, has to be one of your heroes. Because if you're from America, you live in a great country. He's one of the reasons why. So, props to George Washington. Napoleon, what can I say? Dude put up a fight. He's definitely a war icon, and respect to him coming out. But of course, he came up short. No pun intended. So yeah, that about does it for my episode review. Stay tuned for next week. I'm sure to have a prediction up for Joan of Arc versus William the Conqueror up very soon, hopefully, and I'll have an episode review up for that too. So yeah, that about does it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please thumbs up, and yeah, that shit helps a lot. Follow me on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter if you do have that stuff. And yeah, I guess I'll see you next week. So thank you again, and take care.